Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Steve Larsen, and you're listening to Sales Funnel Radio. And real quick, I just want to ask, how did you get started doing what you're doing?
Welcome to Sales Funnel Radio, where you'll learn marketing strategies to grow your online business using today's best internet sales funnels. And now, here's your host, Steve Larsen.
All right, now I know that that's kind of a, that should be somewhat of an introspective question, all right? That should be something that causes you to go like, how did I get here? And I hope that that's a question that you continue to ask yourself over and over. It's actually been one that my wife and I, funny enough, have actually been asking about what I've been doing, you know, and why I have funnels that have been working on my own, and why is it that, I work where I do, and why is it, and it's been really cool to kind of work backwards and go, whoa, like if we hadn't made that one choice, like we'd not be here, or if we didn't do that one thing, or if we didn't go down that path, which totally failed, but even though it failed, it still led us here. You know what I mean? And what was interesting is, that's actually been a topic of conversation for us, rather frequently over the last little bit here. As you know, it's been really, really cool to look back and be like, holy crap, like, and I graduated like a year ago, from college. I'm a bit older than the standard graduate, okay, but I did. I graduated a little bit over a year ago, and you're like, holy man, what happened? Like, how did that happen? What was the big difference? Like, why is it that I feel like I am just, guys, I love my life. I love life, and I love everything that's going on. I get so excited about everything that's out there, all the opportunity. Whenever somebody says, hey, I need someone to go do this, or whenever this happens, my knee-jerk reaction is just to raise my hand, because I want to try everything. And I'm not trying to just talk about myself here on this podcast. I really am. I'm trying to show you guys how I have built successful sales funnels and how I continue to do it, both personally and, obviously with Russell where I work. And you know what it's been is as my wife and I started going and started dissecting, right, and going through all these things, this common theme started to bubble up. And it's a theme. It's an attitude. Funny enough, I actually didn't realize ever that this is what I was doing ever. But it's turned out to be this just really, really powerful. I mean, it's turned out to be somewhat of a gift. And it actually started when I was really, really young. My dad, and I've told this story a little bit before, it's like the second episode ever of this podcast. If you've never heard it, that's totally fine, but you can go back and listen to it. But my dad had me be what he called the yard manager. And we didn't have a small yard. It wasn't massive, but I mean, it's a good size though. There's a garden, there was a whole bunch of places to weed. There's a whole bunch of, and it is really, really, anyway, it was a big task, right? And he said, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And he said, Stephen, all right, you're the oldest. I get it, but you are the oldest, and you're the only one that you gotta, anyways, I was deemed as the yard manager first, obviously being the eldest. And what that meant is he would have me go hire my siblings. He didn't tell me how to do it. He didn't tell me, but I literally would write hiring contracts. I think I was 14, and I would write these contracts to hire my siblings for certain jobs. Okay, hey, sibling number 2, would you please mow the lawn every week? That job is contracted at $13 every week, or something like that. You know what I mean? And then I'd go to the next sibling. Hey, could I contract you to do this? And they would sign it. And there's literally an interview, and it sounds so cheesy, but oh my gosh, think about what that did And then I'd go to the next sibling, and I'd do, and the work would get done, or if it didn't get done, I'd have to pick up the slack, right? I was the contractor, so to speak, and that's how we set it up. And I only, my dad's only point of contact for the yard was me. And so when something happened or something didn't happen, or if there was something out of whack, like he would come to me, and then I would go to my hirees, and I would go to my employees, so to speak, and I'd go talk to them, and I'd say, hey, do this better. And obviously the sibling environment and came around and said, at times that we would fight about it, and there was many renegotiations of contracts. But whenever I wanted to get paid, I had to go create an actual invoice, and I'd turn it into my dad, and then he would write it back. And it was interesting because while that story is cool, the main point of it is that I would come to him and I would say, Dad, I don't know what kind of fertilizer to get. And he would go, oh, interesting. Yeah, what do you think? And I go, he would ask, I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting that question at all. And guys, 100%, I promise that this relates 100 and a bazillion percent to building sales funnels. So please stick with me what I'm saying here, okay? This thread, after like months of introspection, this is what it came down to, right? And my dad would say, hey, well, what do you think? And I go, I don't know. He's like, I guess you got to go find that out, huh? And I'd be like, crap, like, are you serious? That's all the help I get? And I remember feeling a little bit frustrated and annoyed and totally vulnerable. And I would go and I'd just kind of get on Google, or I'd ride my bike over to Home Depot, or I would price out stuff and shovels and whatever the yard needed. And I would go back to him and I'd say, hey, I think we should get this one because of this. And he'd go, great, sounds good. And like no contest. And I'd be like, wow, okay. Yeah, sometimes he'd ask, does that fit within the bounds of the budget I've given you for the yard? And I'd be like, well, I think so, and repeatedly over and over again, he stopped giving me answers. And it was something that started very young in my life. And I know that it's one of the major reasons for what has transpired since I was 14, And I mean, very, very young. He stopped answering all sorts of questions. He never got me a job. He never, and I started working very, very young, with actual jobs. And I would be the one going to get the job. And I did a crap ton of labor jobs, and I'm so thankful that I did them. They taught me to work in crappy environments and make the best of it and bloom where I was planted, which is huge. Holy crap, it's huge. And then I'd go into the next thing, and repeatedly over and over and over again, this whole, I would ask my dad, hey, I want to get a car. How should I get it? And he'd go, hey, how do you think you should get it? And it's not that he wasn't condescending at all. He was truly asking, like, okay, cool. Like, what's your plan? And he would have me be the one going through and saying, like, hey, now, look at the different cars. Here you go. Like, so which one do you think you should get? And be like, probably this one. Cool. Go for it. And that was it. There's no other like, warm fuzzies. Yeah, great job or bad job, or you know what I mean? Like if it was a really critical thing, he'd say, hey, you know what, maybe go for this or this or this, or he'd teach me and stuff like that. But the large bulk of decision making was in my hands from a very early age. And I've realized that it's one of the major things that set me apart Army-wise, set me apart school-wise amongst my colleagues, even amongst some of my professors, right? Amongst so many scenarios, the rest of my life, the ability to solve my own problems. And it's not that I know the answer, it's that I hunt the answer, okay? I get out and I work my freaking butt off and I just find the answer. Get out of my way, I'm gonna figure it out, right? And this whole mentality started out, and I didn't realize that's what he's doing. And honestly, I don't know if he knew that's what he was doing. I think the concept comes from the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He did that with his kids with their yard. And I don't know if that's why he did it, but I'm glad he did. But it started this whole thing. I was not very good at school because I didn't want to be. I didn't realize that was the reason why, but I realize that now, and I didn't want to go solve those problems. I didn't want to, I barely graduated high school. I figured out how to learn when I was in college, which is great. And I ended up getting mostly straight A's almost the entire time, except for like one semester, and which is awesome, but guess how I did it? I was a self-solver. I figured it out on my own. It's not that I was smart enough to figure it out. It's that I didn't halt every other activity until I found that answer. That's not it at all. I kept everything else going that could go forward until I found that answer. Then I kept moving forward. Does that make sense? When I needed to figure out, hey, how do I post something on YouTube? When I went and I figured out, hey, how do I build a website? I went on the internet and I Googled it. I found a tutorial and I just did it. I put the tutorial on one side of the screen, and then whatever was like, and I remember it was in WordPress, the first time I did it for a client, I pulled up WordPress and I just started building. And I would watch 3 minutes and I'd pause it and go do what he said. And then I'd play for 3 minutes, pause it, and go do what he said. And it took me 8 hours, something like that, to build the first one, even though it was like a couple, 1 or 2 hour tutorial, just because I was doing it with him the whole time. That's literally how I built my first website, was watching a tutorial for a client. He didn't know. I don't know that he knew I was doing that. But anyway, but it worked. That was the problem set in front of me. I did not stop just because a problem arose. You don't stop. You don't. Oh, I get so animated about this topic because I am starting to get questions sent to me over Facebook. I'm not starting to. I've been getting them like crazy. People asking me things like, Steven, how do I move a button from the left side to the right? Freaking look it up. It's not my job to solve that problem for you. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. Like, that's the mentality that I hope everyone is developing. That's what it means to be a business owner. That's what it means to be an entrepreneur. You are a 100% front lines, only person who owns it, problem solver. That's it. Okay? How did I figure out how to build in ClickFunnels? I didn't learn when I was at ClickFunnels. I was building for people way before Russell ever knew I was, way before I ever got hired, way before I ever went to his event. Okay? I went and I got clients. I said, hey, here's this cool funnel. I'm going to build it for you. And I knew just enough. There was just enough light in front of where I could see for me to go offer that to him. And I knew there would be questions, but I knew I could figure it out. And again, guys, please understand, I am not tooting my own horn, but it's enough of a theme that keeps coming up. I just feel like I have to share this. That you've got to be a self-solver. I tell it to the 2 Comma Club students. I tell it to everybody I know. Like, you need to solve your own problems. And it's not, again, that you are the one solving them. It's that you're hunting them. You're searching for them. One of the biggest issues that I find over and over and over again with people who build sales funnels or entrepreneurs in general, or people who are not quite entrepreneurs and they're trying to break into being an entrepreneur, or they've never actually made $1 online, or they're trying to create an extra source of income or whatever it is, they're not obsessed enough. They're not obsessed enough. You have got to be a monomaniac. When somebody turns around and they say, it's so funny. There's really only like 3 of the 11 business partners that I had in college that I still keep up with. And it's not that, again, it is not at all that I'm bashing them at all. It's just there's this common theme that I saw every single time. We would go and we'd meet. We'd have this sweet idea, a legitimate opportunity, anywhere from, in any industry you can imagine. I mean, we try to sell anything, and it was awesome. My whole college was littered with that. I learned more doing that than I did in my actual major, and that's, you can expect that from anything, that you put your mind to. But what would end up happening, and it was true for any group project, it was true for things in the army, anywhere at all. This is not like this only happens in college. It happens anywhere, at any time, any place. This is like human behavior. That most of the time, when there is something new that pops up, something unexpected, something that's like, hey, here's a piece of adversity, you should probably stop, right? 99% of people stop. Don't stop. Okay? If you stop, you're not obsessed enough. You didn't want it in the first place. Okay? That's my opinion. Huge opinion, but I believe it to be true. I put my foot down behind that because I just, holy crap. Like, anyway, I wrote down a few notes here. There's a few points I just wanted to hear with this, is that you got to understand that when you start moving towards something, it's like pushing a boulder up a hill or even down a hill. It takes a lot of effort to get that thing to move at the first. Tons of effort. Like 80% of the fuel for a rocket is spent in the actual launch, right? Tons of it. And then this really weird thing happens. Most of the people will give up just off of that first initial push, right? They were in love with the idea of it rather than the activity of doing it, right? And what ends up happening is as you start to push this boulder forward, this huge heap of work, right? It becomes this sanctifying thing for the entrepreneur. And what it does, it starts to almost, and so to speak, like almost baptize them into the realm of entrepreneurship as they start to actually solve the problems, because there's new problems every single day. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I post Instagram? How to do that? How do I get these videos done? How I learned how to video edit? YouTube. How I learned how to do all the sound editing I'm doing right now? YouTube. How I learned how to do what podcast intros are, how to put together a sales funnel, right? YouTube, and a combination of support docs on ClickFunnels. I have read probably 90% of the support docs at ClickFunnels way before I ever worked there. That's one of the reasons I work there. Okay, I know that's one of the reasons why. I know the system so dang well. Okay, that's why I've read a lot of the nitty gritties. You gotta be a self-teacher. You've got to be a self-teacher. And what ends up happening is you push that boulder forward. Number one, all these people back away, right? Seth Godin calls that the dip. It's a great book called The Dip. But then this other thing starts to happen too. The boulder starts to move a little bit easier on its own, right? A little bit of momentum starts to come together, and really interesting things start to happen, right? It's almost like the world tries to say, "Oh, you want to go do that thing? You want to go do that thing? Oh, that's so cool. Well, we're going to test the crap out of your will first. And then once we see you're serious, let's go ahead and start sending you and placing little cool things in your path to help you." And then, the resources start coming out of the woodwork. It has happened every single time I have ever built a funnel or a business or anything ever, whether it's my own project or someone else's. Number one, there is always unexpected conflicts that happens. We're trying to launch a certain kind of funnel right now. It's taken like 6 weeks. I'm super frustrated. They're not out yet, but it's because there's this one problem that is kicking my butt, and I have got to figure it out. And I know I'm going to figure it out. I just haven't yet. And it's like a weight on my shoulders. I've got to figure it out. I suffer from insatiable curiosity. I've got to fix the problem. I suggest you suffer from the same. Please suffer from insatiable curiosity, okay? You've got to be in love with it. You've got to obsess over the answer. Each individual answer, not just the outcome. Make $1 million, be successful, get on the cover of Forbes, whatever it is. Those are the outcomes. Everyone falls in love with those. Really easy to fall in love with those. Much harder to fall in love with the process. And I'm asking you to fall in love with the process. Because as you move forward, as the boulder moves forward, resources start coming out of the woodwork that you didn't know were there. You're like, huh. And so you can start to move them and use them. And the boulder starts to move a little bit quicker. And you're pushing hard as you were before, but you're actually starting to see some progress. And you're like, dang. And other people who fell out, they try and jump back on the bandwagon. Happens every single time. Every time I've ever done anything, I always get people out of the woodwork. Oh, did you need help with that? Like, no. Like, I needed help with it at the beginning, but you left, and you're just trying to backpack on what I've done, And anyways, that's always happens. And then what always happens, there's like this third stage. Okay, this third stage happens where this second round, and this whole thing repeats over and over and over again in different areas. But it's like this third round of testing your will comes out again, right? It's like, okay, push this big boulder, solve some of the immediate problems, little bit of momentum happens, resources come up, and you're like, wow, cool, I didn't know I got this out. Wow, there's actually, all right, sweet. It happens every time. And then after that, there's like this another big round of distraction that comes out. And every time I start on some kind of new thing that I think is a cool business opportunity, it's the weirdest thing. If I'm not trying to build something, there's no opportunities finding me. It's the weirdest thing. The moment I start getting myself in action, though, and I say, I'm going to go after this one thing, tons of business opportunities and deals and stuff like that, they all just come out of the woodwork. And I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and I was like, it's so funny. I was like, I put my foot down. I'm going to go after this one thing, just this one thing. And she's like, yeah, and you started getting all these things coming to you again. I was like, yeah, it happens every time, and I got to practice saying no. And it's like the world is testing me, saying, do you really want that, or can I distract you with this? Can I get you with some shiny object syndrome? Here you go. And it happens every time, and it's kind of funny to watch it. I just expect it now. Anytime I'm going to go after this one thing, like boom, and then I got to say, nope, it's not my plan. Not my plan, and I truly believe that the ability to be a self-solver, to obsess and fall in love with the process, not just the outcome, is one of the biggest keys to being successful in anything, building sales funnels, anything. I'm not a coder. I know some code because I self-taught it when I needed it. I just solved the immediate problem in front of me. I didn't just go trying to learn code for nothing. I learned code when I say code, I mean like CSS, like really baseline stuff. I would not consider myself a coder or programmer at all. But what the stuff that I did learn was the stuff I needed to use right then. I just YouTubed it. All right, I just Googled it. Guys, I freaking YouTube and Googled my entire major, right? I went and I took all my books. I got the PDF versions. I loaded them into this thing that spoke them to me at 400 words a minute. I would listen for 3 things I could rant about, and that's how I wrote all my papers. All right, that's it. That's how I did it. All right, I hacked my homework. That way I could go build sales funnels. That's literally the reason why. And it worked. Anyway, Yeah, there's a few other points I wanted to make with this, but I'm already going 19 minutes now. And I'm trying not to have these things be too long. When I first started this podcast, someone was like, I love that your podcasts are only like 12 to 15 minutes. They're perfect. Any longer, they wouldn't be awesome. But it's funny because I feel like I've gotten better, so there's more good things to say. And someone the other day was asking like, hey, how long should my videos be? How long should my podcast be? How long should any content piece be? And I said, as long as you're not boring. And the moment you get boring, it's time for you to stop. So anyway, for fear that I am sounding like a broken record, I'm probably going to end it here. But just please know that I take this very seriously. That when I would partner with somebody in the past, or when I would do a project with someone or anything, and they would not try to solve the problems that arose first by themselves, I would immediately fire that person. I'm not kidding. I would do that with VAs. I do that with anybody. You're telling me you can't go to freaking Google, right, the library of the world, and look it up, just do a simple search and try and figure it out yourself first before you bring it to me and solve the problem on your own? Like, holy crap. I don't want you on my team. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I built it. That's how I built it in college. That's how I do it now. Like, half the time, like, there's been so many, I can't even tell you how many times, like, we will be at work and Russell will be like, hey, I got to have this done. I got to have this done. Sometimes, especially at the beginning, I had no idea how to pull off what he was asking me to do. I didn't. And most of the time I would tell him, like, look, I don't know how to do that, but I know I can figure it out. You know, give me like 15 minutes. I'll watch a few YouTube videos. I get the gist. I'll figure it out the rest of the way. I build the parachute while I'm falling, you know? And anyway, so if you don't feel like you can self-solve, if you can go answer the problems that are popping up in front of you on your own without going to other people, my guess is you are not actually in love with the process itself. You're in love with the outcome. And that's fine to be in love with the outcome. But honestly, like, man, when I was running, like, you know, I'd run the 2 mile in 11 minutes and 54 seconds. Like, is that Olympic speeds? No, but that's really fast, you know? And when I was doing that though, I didn't look at the finish line. I had to look at the 3 steps in front of me. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with building stuff. You can't just start looking at the finish line all the time. You're going to eat it. Anyway, be a self-solver, guys, and just go and understand, like, if you're going to, now it's fine to blow up support and ask them like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? You know, that's why they're there. But like, man, look at freaking Google. It's all there. It's how I learned everything. It's not that, I know that it's not that I'm smarter. I know it has nothing to do with that. You know, like I said, I barely graduated high school. That's not a joke. I got straight D's in all math. I got straight D's in all foreign language. I got straight D's in almost every single subject. It's not a joke. 60.1%. Okay? That's not a joke. You know the A's I got in? Extracurricular stuff, yearbook, stuff like that, like theater, stage, singing. You guys all know that about me. But anyway, those are the things for the rest of my life, it's just been, well, solve the immediate problem in front of me. And that's the major reason I stopped reading just for the sake of reading for such a long period of time. I realized I needed to solve the challenge directly in front of me and stop distracting myself with reading the next book or taking the next course. You know, and it's not that I don't have nothing. It's not that I have nothing to learn. It's that it gets distracting and you stop executing and you start getting slower than the other guy. So anyway, I'm definitely talking too much now. Hey guys, hopefully that helped. Go be a self-solver, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Sales Funnel Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Want to get one of today's best internet sales funnel for free? Go to salesfunnelbroker.com/free funnels to download your pre-built sales funnel today.